Okay. Oh, I didn't want to do any rollouts today because I already uploaded the teaching video. And I just wanted to rest, and I'm unable to rest. So we'll see how many I'll get to do. Just a few updates. I think I'll tag. This will be, I got to be out. This would be one of the like rollouts, but I made one the other day with Charlie. Now I'm going to try to upload that one. I'll try to upload that one first, and then whatever ones I make today. I just want to do a little of the girl that was a little news update, maybe talk a little bit. I've been wanting to comment on the Colder Times. Nick Jimenez, I wanted to comment on him, one of the editorial guys. There are many issues that you hear people discussing things about how people are ignorant. And many of the people that talk on issues, the Colder Times put something the other day. They ran an article after I criticized their editorial that everybody that would believe that it was possible that one of the leakers of the emails of the DNC was possibly someone from inside the Clinton thing, and he was shot. He was murdered in Washington. Okay, that's questionable in the sense that nothing was taken from that man, and some people believe he might have been the one that was leaking. So in the world of politics, and in the world of our country, things like that have happened. Well, the Colder Times read an article and basically said anybody that would bring that up, because Blake Farenthold, one of our politicos that represents this region, he mentioned it on a news thing. So the Colder Times read an article and basically they said, oh, anybody that would believe in that would be like conspiracy theorists and this and this and this and this. The same language used when they deal with abortion. The same language used when they deal with other issues. And of course we have the climate. I keep looking for my past. I just simply wrote the history of CO2 levels as far back as we understand. Okay? I'm not anti-science. And if you read, just this morning, just reading the news sites, I saw a link. There are 58 scientists, knowledgeable scientists, who have all these past few years written extensive papers on the questioning, not that global warming or climate change is not happening, but they were questioning some of the ways that we attribute all of it to CO2 levels. So to put it simple, some people that are scientists, who are not nuts, who are not crazy, some people actually believe that the debate about things happening are missing a balanced view of certain things. And anybody who would ever question it is considered out of the mainstream type thing. Now, this is how the Colder Times basically reported the Paris Climate Accord. The Paris Climate Accord, at the time that it was signed, though it was a voluntary climate thing, listen to me, my friends, who maybe you didn't have time to research things and all. When the Paris Climate Accord was signed, which is what Trump just pulled out of, the environmentalist groups who are the most vocal about climate change and global warming, they said that the Paris Climate Accord was a joke. The true environmentalists, the ones that are very radical on the left side of the aisle, they believe that the Paris climate, some of them believed and made public statements that it was a joke. Why? The Paris Climate Accord had, I think, 200 nations signed it. And when Trump used to say, the world is laughing at us over that, he was correct. Why, John? The three biggest industrial polluters. Look, I didn't research this. It's just people that if you're informed in any level of things, China is a bigger polluter, okay, than the U.S. The U.S. is number two. This is simply because of the industrial factory and so forth. And below us, I believe, was India. Okay, but you have many other countries that signed the accord that are not as big polluters because they're not as industrialized as the ones I just mentioned. Okay, John. So did the Paris Climate Accord, which was voluntary, which tried to get nations to agree to cut back on emitting CO2 and, transitioning to clean fuels and all of those things, which are all kind of noble and good. I'm not against that. What it did was the only country that actually was reducing was us. Okay, the only country voluntarily in that accord that was actually going down on the levels of dirty fuel and so forth was the United States. All of the others, even China, were not cutting back. As a matter of fact, they were continuing to increase. Okay. What country was paying money as a fine that would go to the other countries that joined the accord? The U.S. was the only one, for as far as I know, that was paying penalties, because though we were willingly decreasing, which we still are, yet we considered ourselves in violation because we were the only ones paying money. So the other countries that kept producing, not even slowing down, all China did was said in the year 2030, I believe, they would not build as many, CO2 or, quote, some say dirty plants and so forth. They simply kind of said, well, we promise down the road we won't pollute as much as we are polluting now. Not that they're going to actually cut back on the pollution right now. They're still increasing it. Then why would anybody sign that? Because we were the ones that were going to pay these other countries penalties, and we were the only one paying. And whoever's part of it, you get part of, we pay you, even those that are polluting more than the United States, which is China. And they will continue to pollute. Now, when anybody with common sense saw that, that's why the Sierra Club, Mr. Kohler Times, that's why the environmentalist groups who are very, trying to really radical left environmentalist groups, that's why they said at the time of the Paris Accord that it was a joke. But now, because Trump pulled out, the Kohler Times had the nerve, the gall to run an article that said, they ran one from another newspaper that basically said, Trump's decision is going to destroy the planet, in so many words. Why do I hold you accountable for such unreliable, uninformed reporting? Let me ask you, Mr. Nick Jimenez in the Kohler Times, how much research have you done in the history of science? I guarantee you, I myself probably have done more than you. There was a time in the 1800s, I'm sure you're familiar with it because you put articles that actually incite other people that might not be as informed to do things. Say if you were a young person, the girl that they just arrested on the first leak, I'm going to get into that again, her name is Reality Winnie. She's the first one that the Justice Department now has charged with leaking information. She's from Kingsville. That girl is from Kingsville. That's where I retired as a firefighter. That's where I was in the Navy in 1980. That's a Kingsville girl. But she was working for a private contractor. She's the one that released one of the most recent information. Now, I'm not against people that release information to expose things. what Andrew Snowden and other famous leakers did, they actually released information that our government was violating the law on U.S. citizens, which was the collection of data. What reality, when it released, was not so much of a big secret, but it was the reality that Russia tried to hack into government systems. But as far as we know, they never actually hacked into the systems themselves. Okay. The media now, I knew they were going to do it, but they're now going to say, Trump is going after this innocent girl. Don't ever forget, President Obama, and I mentioned this statistic a while ago, I'm sure the Fuller Times is unaware of it. President Obama charged more leakers under his 8 years with Espionage Act, which normally you don't go after them with the spy charges. He did it more than all the other presidents in the history of the U.S. combined. I used to think that statistic was false. There was a female reporter that worked for mainstream media. Her name was Cheryl Atkinson. When she started reporting on Obama, people went into her private computers, government people. She was so shocked, she kind of wrote a book about that. There was a lot of oppression that went after the media, more so under the Obama administration than any others. And when he went after those leakers that they did catch with espionage, the media was silent on it. I even heard a New York Times reporter who was a liberal, who they asked him about what he felt about the Obama administration at the time, you know, how he helped him. And the guy laughed. He said he was the biggest, he went after us more than any other one. But the media was silent on that. Now they're going to be very vocal. Now, why would I bring that up? When you do articles that would say that you put these in your paper, that would say Trump's decision is going to lead to the destruction of humanity, in essence, which any fair reading, even by the Sierra Club, would have said that Paris Climate Accord was a sham and was a joke. And if you wanted to say, why did we sign it then? Because Mr. Kerry, who I heard on the morning talk show the other day, he wanted to build legacy. The same thing with the Iran nuclear pact. And many liberals at the time of the so-called Syria deal with Obama, where Assad said, we're going to get rid of all of our chemical weapons and so forth. I remember I commented on at the time, when we made that deal, the country that was supposed to ship those weapons out was Russia, the number one ally of Assad. And I thought, how could you even say that the deals that we were making, because obviously Russia never shipped them out, because they were an ally, and as we know, Assad used them and Trump hit them with the tomahawks. Now, all of these accords that received criticism at the time, now the media just reports. A fair reading of it would have been the Paris Climate Accords was not good because it was voluntary, and the only country voluntarily paying tons and millions of dollars of fines was us. Even China, who produces more, was not even decreasing what they're producing, their pollution. How could you even think that was crazy to do? Now, and there are many articles from scientists that question the historic levels of CO2. I wrote one on this before. This had nothing to do with right, left wing. This was just facts. The historic levels of CO2, far back as we can look, we are below what higher levels in the past were. And there were certain danger levels that were considered danger levels. And if you looked at the scale, we were still way below on a global scale. So when you want to debate these things, now to say how the media reports anybody that would question them, in the 1800s, this is from Nick Jimenez and the Fuller Times, there was a very famous scientist by the name of Charles Darwin. I'm sure you're familiar with Mr. Darwin. The books he wrote, The Origin of the Species and The Descent of Man, which was one of the most racist books you could ever see. Because as they believed in the idea, in the concept of evolution, they said certain races advanced more than other races. And in the writings of Darwin and others, They said the white race has advanced more. And the black race, particularly, they looked at the Aborigines, black tribes. And they said, look, they are less human than white people. Most racist stuff you could ever believe. There were Christian thinkers and just regular Christians who questioned one of the main scientific points of evolution, which is called abiogenesis. Okay? I'm sure the Cola Times knows all this, because then they wouldn't be reporting on science. And abiogenesis basically was the belief that life pops into existence from nothing. Okay? Meaning you could have little tadpoles that they came to the scientific belief because you'd find pools of water, and after it rained, all of a sudden later on you'd find life in the water. And they said it's just the concept that it just came from them. If there was food out or things, and it would breed maggots. Okay, it's even a verse in the Bible. It bred maggots, just describing what you see from the natural. So they believe, science believed, that life just popped into existence from nothing. Now, if you disagreed with Darwin at that time in the 1800s, the same if you had the media reporters of today. If you said, wait a minute, I'm a scientist. Science means knowledge. I'm sure that's all it means, it's knowledge. If somebody said, I'm looking at things, and I questioned that viewpoint, which was technically called abiogenesis. I don't believe that things are just popping from nothing. There might be another cause. All of the editorials at that time would say, oh, what a foolish, look at these stupid Christians. Look at anybody that would question science. Look at anybody that would question it. Now, today, every scientist and every reporter and every person who mocked those who questioned abiogenesis, they're all the fools today. Because abiogenesis is not true. Because they didn't realize that birds and flies and other things land in the pools of water. They transmit things. That's how we saw the maggots coming up. That's how we found little tadpoles or whatever in pools of water. But yet, anybody that questioned that science at that time was ignorant. The history of science is there have been generations of people that were very wrong on major things. Many, many scientists for many, many years believed that the universe and all that we see always existed, and there was never a beginning point. And if you questioned and said, no, I believe the account of Genesis, I believe that there was a time when all things came into being. Now, this is not abiogenesis, because God, who is a spirit, created all things. But there were throughout the history of science that challenged the majority report that all things always were. There were thinkers who said, no, we do not believe the universe and everything always existed. We believe there was a time where it began. And the so-called media would mock you. But today, because of the great breakthroughs of Albert Einstein in the 20th century, today, every scientist that in the majority, 90-something%, will tell you they believe in the Big Bang Theory. They believe that there was a point of singularity. So everyone that questioned the Christians and the thinkers who challenged the majority report, today they're all fools and they're all wrong. Because now, unless you deny Einstein, one of the greatest thinkers in science, Einstein showed us, and most accept the Big Bang Theory, that indeed there was a beginning. So the point I'm simply making, and look, these things, when we came to truth on them, were greater overthrows of the previous mindset. And the whole debate, we understand that humans contribute to climate change. We understand there's even scriptures that talk about We need to be caretakers of the earth. And I'm not against countries trying to lessen their productivity using fossil fuels and emitting more CO2. No, I'm not against any of that. But if you want to ever have any balanced discussion in the country, then you can't be putting articles and papers that say Trump's decision is going to lead to basically the destruction of humanity. Because when you do irresponsible reporting like that, even one article off the cuff to explain some of the things about the historic levels of CO2, how out in the West Coast in California, even in the New York City, great industrial beginnings of this country, there were trees that were doing real well. And they said, how are these trees in the city doing real well? It was actually because of production. The CO2 was helping. I mean, why didn't you? You must be informed. Why are you upset about it? Because when the debate raged in our state over the Christian group that basically had those videos of the Planned Parenthood discussing the sale of baby parts. Okay, those videos were true videos that were taken. And the media then claimed that, and there was discussion, and abortion is something, if you simply looked at some of the late-term abortions, it is so hideous. It is so hideous. But many people who believe their view they celebrate. I just saw a few articles where women were celebrating. Certain groups were celebrating it. And for you to refuse to give a balanced view on it, how we in science today, through sonograms and everything, realize, wait a minute, there's something wrong when we permit late-term abortions. We're beginning to see that these are actually true. But the Kohler Times and other media mocked those who challenged it. And I remember seeing the face of one of the editorial people in the Kohler Times with a big smile. And he was mocking and referring to the undercover videos that were taken by that group, I think it was called Veritas. He was mocking them, saying they were a bunch of right-wing crazy nut jobs. And the article presented that they were trying to attack the freedom of women. No, the truth is, you look at what's really happening. Don't play to that side. Don't play to that side. It's irresponsible to put articles either way if you're misinformed. I just gave you a few examples off the top of my head. There are not just a few nut job scientists. I heard John Kerry speaking on the morning Sunday show with Chuck Todd, and they were talking somewhat about this. And it was so arrogant because Chuck Todd is talking to John Kerry and talking about the Paris Accord. He said, why didn't you make it binding? And Kerry was honest. He said, well, to be honest, we couldn't. We would have never passed it through Congress, so we had to make it voluntary. But then he said, Trump was done some other things. And then Chuck Todd said, but how could we appeal to the red states? How could we appeal to those Republicans in the country, in essence, who are just ignorant? They're ignorant of science. They're ignorant. This was the way it was presented. And Kerry said, I think we have to speak in a different way because there was no room for the true analysis that the pact, the accord, was a sham. Even liberal groups called it a sham at the time. There was no room for that discussion. The discussion was Trump pulled out, the world is going to plunge now into a global disaster, and it's all because of the Republican red state voters in this country. That's the most biased reporting you will ever see. So there are many issues. The Hayden case, which you've heard me speak about before, that case now, they just, I believe, released Hayden. This was a case dealing with Kohler Times did some good reporting. But I would just, when I read these articles and I see them, just as the few little facts I just gave you in talking off the cuff, you would expect media, print, and also right-wing and left-wing, both. You'd expect them to at least be educated. It's not just your job put opinions of editorials of other papers. I felt like they ran one of the editorials because when I criticized the one about some people actually questioned the killing of the DNC, that Democratic worker in Washington, then the next day or two they ran another one and it was called Another View, like an opposing view. Oh, maybe, and it was the same exact thing, but it came from like the Baltimore Sun. Look, that's not considered another view when we run the exact same article. I believe that the mindset in the liberal community, and I'm neither liberal or conservative, but the mindset is one of, they don't understand it, but it's a bigotry. It's an unwillingness to question. I gave you a few examples just now, how people were looked at as stupid and ignorant, and at the end of the day, everyone that questioned any of their beliefs later was proven themselves to be wrong. So it's humility that says there are things happening in the country. There are things that are going on. There are things happening in the world. We want a responsible society. I believe that, yes, the pollution and the industrialization of man, and it does have an immediate effect. But there are other things also that have an effect, okay? Right now you're looking at me under trees. Are they polluting? Come on. What do they put off? What do they put off? They put off CO2. Or put off CO2. We are breathing. Oh, I hope I got it right. CO2 comes naturally, all right? Oxygen and CO2. CO2 is something from animal gas, okay? You know, flatulence and things like that. I'm just trying to show you. And look, I don't have to be a genius or anything. We just have to be informed of both sides of the scale. I mentioned on, let's see, how long did I go? I mentioned on another video that's coming up, I'm going to upload the Charlie one that I made with him the other day. I found it interesting, I'll mention it. I went to see my friend Mike yesterday, and when I visited Mike, one of his neighbors came across the street. That was where my friend Mike was. I posted those pictures of the paintings he made there. I think he was going to give me that one of Jesus, but when I left, I pulled up quick because I had to go. And a lady from across the street came, but she had her bike stolen about 2 weeks ago. And on the video, some of my friends, after she said what color it was and all, that's the bike that Charlie had. And you see us in the video. And it's very common in Florida Bluff, I believe it was that bike. It's very common for people to steal. Bikes are a big move. And I do understand when you hear Charlie talk, or any of my friends, some of them, they cross the line. I had a good day with David and Andy yesterday. And I'm not justifying any of these things, but we do have problems in society. Now I'm going to take a little ride. This will be the first one for today, and just look at some of the things, okay? Just be have an honest evaluation. I forgive Kathy Griffin. What she did was wrong. Some won't forgive her. I forgive her. I forgive her. You know, I thought, before I actually read it, I said when Trump responded to the Kathy Griffin, the comedian, holding the mock severed head of Donald Trump, when he responded, he said, my 12-year-old son, Barron, was highly upset. I questioned, maybe he's just throwing that out. Then I thought, I bet you they want to go after Barron. Let's find out if Trump lied. I just thought that. This is how they're playing their game. Sure enough, I saw some article somewhere where they wanted to, in essence, go after Barron. Let's maybe get Trump's 4-year-old. Let's question, did you? Something I saw to that effect. And then Kathy Griffin, I forget that. Then she said, Trump and his older children. She was one that there was some question that she wanted to talk about the younger 12-year-old Barron. She said, they're out to destroy me. You know, the political game would like to put Jerry in prison, the son-in-law of Trump. They would go after the family. I understand they have roles they're playing in the administration. If the liberal media wants to help society, do balanced reporting. This reality winner from Kingsville, of course, I think she was living in Georgia when they arrested him. I think, she leaked it to The Intercept. Look, I read these types of sites, and you're such an Intercept. But I think that the media is playing a role in trying to stir up. What she leaked was not a real big surprise. Russia, what she leaked was Russia made attempts to hack into the voting system. And all the reporting on that was, as far as we know, they never attempted to actually change actual votes. So it wasn't a big thing. With Snowden leak, I think there's more value for the country. He leaked that how the NSA is collecting metadata on many, many, many Americans. There was also some reports that came out, got hardly any play in the mainstream media. But the FISA courts actually gave a rebuke to the Obama administration and the Justice Department under Obama's administration that they were violating many laws in what was being leaked and what was being collected on private citizens. That should have been a big thing because that led to some of the questions about the Susan Rice and all. But the media is not truly concerned with the stories where a government came against, in these cases, it was liberal government coming against maybe conservatives. Same thing with the lady that was in charge of the IRS. They targeted conservative groups. Those should have been dealt with. So the media is playing a game until they do honest reporting. All right? We'll upload this now.